Hello and welcome everyone joining us today. I am Meaghan from Metcalf, the Outreach and Program Coordinator for Culture Days. I'm joined by Shannon, a Communications Operations Manager. We're going to be walking you through a few important things to know for the Culture Days weekend coming up in a few very short weeks. So just a note to you all, the microphones have been turned off, so if you have any questions, please just fill them out in the question box. Shannon and I will respond to questions at the end of the webinar. So please note that we're only going to be responding to on-air questions directly related to the content of the webinar, and we're going to be having a question period at the end. If you have anything that you're thinking of that just kind of pops up into your head, please email us and we'll be able to respond via email later. So this is the first year that we've created a weekend orientation webinar. Because Culture Days has a huge network that spans across our entire country, we work with various types of organizers, from individual volunteers up to big cultural institutions, many of whom we don't often get to talk to directly as it relates to Culture Days. We thought this orientation could serve you and your fellow organizers, front of house staff, and volunteers to give you a solid introduction or refresher about Culture Days and how to talk to the public about the weekend. So here's the agenda for the orientation. First, we're going to walk you through a few general items, the who's, the what's, the why's. We're going to be talking a little bit about our history, what's going to be happening over the Culture Days weekend, tapping into the weekend, so that's things like social media, photos, attendance, all that kind of stuff. We've got a section on responding to frequently asked questions. So these are questions that we understand that the public often asks when they attend a Culture Days event. And so these are things that, questions that you might get and you might want to know the answers to. And then we're just going to wrap it up by talking a little bit about our 10-year anniversary next year and a few important survey details. So let's just start off with what is Culture Days and what do we do? So Culture Days is a nationwide weekend to celebrate arts and culture in our communities. The Culture Days weekend always takes place on the last weekend in September, and anyone interested in taking part is encouraged to host a program during the weekend and register on the Culture Days website. So last year, we had over 7,000 events across 800 cities, towns, hamlets, and First Nation communities in Canada. More than 2 million people participated in the occasion, and we're hoping to have even more people taking part in 2018. Any artist, organization, arts group, municipality, or club, or pretty much anyone, is able to opt in to participate in Culture Days. All they have to do is plan a program during the weekend and register it on the site. So what makes it an official Culture Days event? We encourage all Culture Days programs to be free, accessible, and participatory. Our hope is that through finding ways to have the public actively engage in the arts, even if it's just for one weekend a year, will raise the awareness, accessibility, participation, and engagement of Canadians in the arts and cultural life of their communities. On our end, we support organizers by providing resources, organizational support, networking, and marketing. We work with our media sponsors. This year, it's Pattison and CBC, to promote Culture Days to Canadians across the country. Our goal is to have every Canadian know about Culture Days and to be looking for ways to participate in some sort of arts and culture programming during the last weekend of September. So we're just going to briefly talk a little bit about our history so you know what Culture Days has done for the past 9 years. So just to go over, since 1997, a program very similar to Culture Days has existed in Quebec called Journée de la Couture. It continues to exist today on the same weekend as Culture Days. In 2007, the Canadian Arts Summit commissioned a study of La Journée to see if it was a model that could be adopted in the rest of Canada. In 2008 and 2009, Alberta and Ontario ran pilot projects in select communities to see how adaptable this model was to the provinces. Following these test runs, the Canadian Arts Summit with founding partners launched the first Culture Days weekend nationally in 2010. And so now we're going to be heading into our 10-year anniversary next year. So this is our 9th year. So to talk a little bit about our organizational structure, Culture Days is non-hierarchical. So we do not directly dictate or prescribe programming taking place, which is why we have a huge range of programming taking place over the weekend. So our national office works collaboratively with Culture Days staff in each province to help to develop some of those strategies for the year. And then the provinces work closely with community organizers who are active in coordinating Culture Days efforts in their communities. These organizers come from all different kinds of organizations, nonprofits, museums, historic sites, theaters, dance studios. These community organizers choose to participate in Culture Days and support other independent artists and organizations participating. So maybe one of these community organizers reached out to you to participate, or perhaps you're a community organizer yourself. As a result, we have lots of different kinds of people choosing to participate and coordinate programs from Culture Days from all across the country and from many different disciplines, more than you could think of. We find this open registration and non-hierarchical system works really well because it allows room for people to adapt Culture Days to suit the needs or suit their own interests and the interests of their community. This is something I find really cool and unique about Culture Days, and something that we find tends to resonate with our organizers as well. So what happens during the Culture Days weekend? For some of you, this might be your first one and you're excited, and maybe you want to have a bit of idea of what's going to be taking place this last weekend in September. So over the 3 days of the Culture Days weekend, organizers coordinate some kind of participatory program that's free to attend. This year, one thing we're really emphasizing is our annual theme on beat. So 2018, as we've already said, is the 9th annual Culture Days, but it's our first time to have a national programming theme. As you may have seen in some of our promotions already, On Beat's a collective drumming and rhythm event. It brings together people from all across the country, both in person and online, to celebrate making the arts accessible and inclusive. So why did we think of On Beat? On Beat will bring together thousands of Canadians from coast to coast to coast through the beat of drums, the taps of feet, the rhythms found in music and song, and the patterns of visual and digital arts, and more. We decided on the rhythm theme for a number of reasons, but the greatest being that drumming is a universal human art form. Nearly every culture in the world has some kind of percussion music or instruments. And drumming is also varied, accessible, inclusive, and powerful. It's really perfectly aligned with the aims of Culture Days in Canada. We're really excited to be having On Beat this year, and we're looking forward to all the programs that are taking place. So to get back to our general programming, we encourage organizers to coordinate something that fits within their budget, their schedule, and their capacity. For some, this is creating a huge event that's attended by many. For example, in Winnipeg, the annual School Days program takes place on the Friday of the Culture Days weekend. Students from all around Winnipeg and area are bused into the Forks, Central Park downtown, where they participate in hands-on activities, watch performances, visit nearby museums. Students get the chance to learn directly from local artists leading the workshops. And some students, such as bands or dance clubs, are also selected to perform for their peers during the event. So not only do they get to hear from artists, they also get to hear from fellow students as well. Not every event is as massive as School Days. I think that's probably one of the biggest ones we have. Other groups find ways to create Culture Days programming within their own buildings. For example, Kerner Hall in Toronto hosts an annual open mic event where everyone's able to book a time and have a few minutes performing on stage, kind of like a Canada's Got Talent sort of format. They've done it a few years now, and it looks like a lot of fun. Other examples can be much smaller in budget and working within the resources already available to that organization. For example, this year, the local library in White Rock, BC has a 6-word story writing workshop. It's inspired by the original 6-word story by Ernest Hemingway. Participants can come, try their hand at creating their own 6-word story, or see what others are creating. So there's lots of different kinds of programs that take place. So there's definitely a possibility for you to find something that really fits within what your organization is able to put on for the Culture Days weekend. Every year, I'm so surprised at the different kinds of activities that come out during Culture Days. If you take a moment and look at our event listings, you can see all the different kinds of programs that are taking place over the weekend. There's something for every interest level, skill. You've got things like baking workshops, magic classes, life drawing sessions, and dance studios, everything in between. So there's definitely something that you can find that you'll be interested in, and I'm sure that your audience members will be interested in as well. something I find I'm really proud of, the huge variety of Culture Days programming, and I find it tends to resonate with a lot of our organizers. So now I'm going to pass this over to Shannon, who's going to talk a little bit about social media during the weekend.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon. I am the communications manager here at Culture Days. Just before I get started on my part, I want to just let you all know that this webinar is going to be available online after, both as a recording with notes in it, and we're also going to make up a little kind of summarized tip sheet that you can pass along to volunteers or other staff members, anyone who's going to be facing the public over the weekend. So once everything's ready, planned, the weekend is here, all of the public are coming to your events, we want you to be posting about it all over social media. We're going to be posting all across the platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So make sure you follow us. Make sure you're using the hashtags Culture Days and On Beat if your event is on beat. So we ask that you engage as much as you can over the weekend. While about 2 million people come out every year physically to Culture Days, we know that a lot of people are online following things as well. So we will be reposting, we'll be sharing. If you can just be talking about your event as much as possible through that weekend, we'll be supporting you and amplifying your message. And we are also this year doing a few live stream events on our Facebook page, which we're super excited about. We're just finalizing the schedule now, but you can expect a wide variety of on-beat events all across the country. We have really good representation, and it just helps us connect with people who might not be going out to Culture Days events in their own communities themselves, or if they can't make it, they can join in the celebration online as well. So we think it's really important that if you can, you're talking about your event on social media. It provides the sort of additional point of access to the public. Those, again, who might not be around, not be on the Culture Days website, might not even be aware of what Culture Days is. It just really helps people find arts and culture events that are going on in their communities. So again, tag us, let us know what's going on. We have just created on our own Facebook page a Culture Days general event, which we'd really encourage you to share with your friends and your family and click saying that you're attending. We also, if you're an organizer, we have opened up the discussion part of that event that you can go in and post about your very own event in there. So you can grow awareness of what's going on in your community. And again, I'll reiterate the important hashtags here are Culture Days, On Beat, and then Play On Beat as well. And Play On Beat is our contest that we're doing this year. It's really fun, super engaging. It's multimedia, so we have 5 different videos that we welcome you to go on and watch. We interviewed 5 really talented artists, and they shared with us their own world of rhythm, their instruments or their voices and how they use it. And then at the very end, we prompt you with a multiple choice question. Don't worry, it's really easy. And once you answer that, you're entered to win some fabulous prizes. The grand prize of which is a $1,500 travel voucher. So we are super excited about that. And the runner-up prizes are movie passes from Cineplex. So most of the provinces also have their own social media accounts, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for the most part. So all you have to do is look up their handle for the province and you'll be able to find them there. And for the most part, provinces are going to be really sharing those individual events across their platforms and driving audiences to your individual events. And let's see, next one. So some other things on top of social media to keep in mind for the weekend. We want to make sure that you're taking as many photos as possible. It's always such a treat for us to see what's going on all across the country. through your photos every year. And it's really important for you guys to be documenting your events as well. So we do have a photo uploader live on our website, and we will give you the link to that after this webinar and when we send it out. So it's pretty easy. We just ask that you follow the instructions, upload your photos, and that way we can use them on our platforms during the year. And it's that extra promotion for you as well. One thing that we are going to really ask organizers to try and do this year also is track attendance at your individual events. We are going to provide a attendance tracking template right after this webinar. We'll send it out, and it's super easy. We just ask that you have a general sense of how many people have come to your event. So this and uploading the photos are very important to remember. They help improve your promotions for future years, and they allow you to measure Culture Days growth in your own community, but it also informs us of where Culture Days is having real impact. So we ask that you do, throughout the craziness of the weekend, try to remember to do those two things. We also have a lot of customizable poster templates on our website that you can download and customize for your own events. So you can start putting those up right now around your community. And we are also going to be, especially on social media, trying to direct the public to our online survey. So it's something to keep in mind when you're talking to the public at your Culture Days event, is that we do have a attendance survey that we ask the public to fill out, and there are prizes, so they have an incentive. But these surveys are key to improving Culture Days across the country and really, meeting the demands of what our attendees want. So we would like you to get to know a bit about Culture Days so you can be prepared for any questions that may come your way. So what we've done is we've compiled what we think are some of the most common questions that we get about Culture Days. And we just want to give you the quick facts on how you can answer those really easily. We've already gone through a little bit of these details, but it really is important that organizers are comfortable talking to the public about what Culture Days really is, and doing so in a really simple, straight way. So the first one that we get is obviously, what is Culture Days? A lot of attendees come to events in their own communities because they know the organizers or they know the organization, and they just know that there's something free happening that weekend at their local art gallery or at the local dance studio. They're not necessarily always making the connection that all of these events are happening across the country at the same time. And that's the really special thing about Culture Days. So Culture Days, as we've said before, we can say it's a national celebration to celebrate arts and culture. And it always starts on the last Friday of September. Any organization, club, municipality, group, or independent artist in any discipline can choose to take part by coordinating their own free and participatory public programs. The goal of the weekend is to just get Canadians out and celebrating arts and culture in their communities all across the country. That's what we're trying to do. So the next question we commonly get is, does Culture Days, the organization, coordinate every program? No, we don't. You do. Independent organizers, they choose to participate, coordinating their own programs in their own communities for the Culture Days weekend. We support organizers through providing resources, networking, marketing support. We also act as the primary marketing campaign for the weekend, the advertising campaign across the country. We work with media outlets to drive public to Culture Days event, as well as social media campaigns. But it really does come down to community organizers in their own neighborhoods, in their own areas, responding to the call of Culture Days and hosting their neighbors and their friends in their own communities in these programs. So the next question is, why is this free? The simple answer is the event is free because Culture Days and organizers such as yourself believe that everyone should have access to arts and culture. In an effort to get every Canadian out and celebrating arts in their community, it is really important to try and remove barriers to access, and one of those is including the cost. This is the same reason that we encourage organizers to coordinate programs that are welcoming, accessible, and participatory. The event isn't just about celebrating your existing supporters, but engaging new audiences by welcoming those who may not normally visit your site or take part in your programming. And by eliminating the barrier of the cost, it might just be that extra boost to get them out there. The next question is, who can participate? Well, anyone can participate in Culture Days. So as long as you're coordinating an arts and culture related event that is participatory and again, free to access, you're already participating in Culture Days. We have all different types of organizers taking part, from museums, municipal cultural departments, heritage groups, arts councils, local artists, and a lot of super volunteers who just want to support the arts and support cultural opportunities in their own communities. Another question that you might get from the public is, wow, I've never been to something like this before. I didn't even know this was happening. How can I participate? So first and foremost, you have to coordinate an event for the Culture Days weekend. That's how you can participate. We've already given you a few examples, and there are many more on our blog and the different resource pages on our website. It's really important that you register your event on the Culture Days website. We can't stress that enough. If it's not registered on the event, we don't know that it's happening, and the public who are searching events on our website can't know that it's happening. That's where the public goes to see. They can search by their postal code, they can search by their region, they can search, based on how far they want to travel. So that's where they find the events. And it also gives them a general sense of how much is going on in their community for that weekend. The final FAQ question that you will most likely get is, what is on beat? And again, we've gone through this in the details, but way we can talk to the public about it. It's the annual theme for the year. It's a celebration of all things related to beats and rhythm. So getting into the theme is a really great way to connect your program with hundreds of other rhythm-related events taking place across the country. We have so many events registered already: drum circles, dance workshops, poetry slams, so a huge variety. And one thing that you can mention to the public when they're asking, because this is the first time that we've had a national programming theme, are we going to keep doing this? Well, we think so. It seems to be, we've gotten such great response to it. We are going to move forward with our annual theme. We can't wait to tell you what next year's is going to be. And then, we did get, it's often helpful for organizers, while it's not required that you stick to the theme at all. We often get organizers who just appreciate that little prompt in how to shape their programming, and that's what we're responding to. All right, I'm going to hand it back to Meaghan.
All right, yeah, I am going to talk about next year. So the 2018 Culture Days is just 3 weeks away, and as you know, a year flies by. So the next 2019 Culture Days is going to be upon us very soon. We're particularly excited about next year because it's our 10-year anniversary. So we're going to be celebrating that and talking about it, I think, pretty much all year. The dates for next year are September 27th, 28th, and 29th. So make sure to mark your calendars now, get that down, and start thinking about what kind of programming that you can have for next year. One thing I really want to stress is that it's important to join Culture Days social media. So that's following us on things like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can also sign up for our newsletter. That's a great way to stay up to date with Culture Days news and updates. And it's also a good opportunity to hear a little bit about the programming resources that we have going on all throughout the year. So it's not just for us about the Culture Days weekend, but we also have things like webinars and tip sheets and just sort of general resources that relate to arts and culture workers. And so those are things that you can find out a little bit more about as they roll out throughout the year. So we're very excited to share the 2019 theme with you. We're not doing that just yet. It's going to be coming soon, sometime in the fall. So definitely keep your eyes and ears peeled. And if you're signing up for a newsletter and you're following us on social media, that's where you're going to start to hear a little bit more about our plans for 2019. It's good to get started early because then it can help to shape some of your program plans as you start to think about what you want to do for 2019. And I know Shannon mentioned it a little bit already, but we do want to encourage you to fill out that survey. So this is where we can hear about your experiences as an organizer. And it's just really so useful for us to have some of your feedback as we begin to plan for next year and any time in the future. We really appreciate the time you take to fill this out. We also have a public survey that's going to be launched, and if you have the opportunity to encourage members of your public to fill out that survey, we also really appreciate that. It helps us to know some trends of what's happening with Culture Days in different communities and really helps to direct some of our own efforts throughout the year. There are prizes for both, as Shannon's mentioned, so there's definitely a good incentive to work on that and fill it out. So please do so, and please encourage the public to do so as well. All right, so that just wraps up our webinar. If anyone has any questions, again, if you want to send us an email, our contact information is on the Culture Days website. You can also just fill out one in the Q&A box right here, and we can always answer that. But we do want to say a big thank you to our sponsors and partners. They are definitely vital in getting the Culture Days weekend taking place. We're going to, as Shannon mentioned, have a tip sheet and recording on our website available soon. So we hope you look forward to seeing those resources pop up on the site. And yeah.
We hope this quick bit of info, whether it was a refresher or this is your introduction to Culture Days, is useful, and we really intend that this is a tool that you can pass along to any volunteers or other staff who are working with you on your Culture Days events, especially in the form of the tip sheet that will get to you really quick here. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll leave the question and answer up for a couple minutes after, but we will turn off the microphone, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day and get geared up for Culture Days. It's coming.
Bye.